Hello, everyone, and thank you, Patrick. First of all, congratulations. You made it till the end of a very, very long day, and I really appreciate you being here. And I do understand I'm the only thing that is standing between you and the cocktail hour. So I'm going to try to make it worthwhile. I'm going to try to give you the best that I can. Before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm currently leading design at Miro, and I lead specifically the enterprise team. So everything that has to do with security, compliance, administration, all the things that are not so fun. Before that, I worked for Amazon Web Services, and I was in charge of the management portfolio. So everything that the users or developers or admins use in order for them to manage infrastructure. I've worked in McKinsey, I worked with big companies, with big enterprise companies, and I had my own startup between Japan and New Zealand. And the only common denominator between everything that I said is I spent a very, very long time working for enterprise companies and working for B2B customers. So, before we start, who here is working for an enterprise or have clients enterprise or B2B or just simply your user is an admin, developer, or a technical person? Can I get a raise of hands? Nice. There's a few people here. And I think you're here because you're feeling that you're struggling to get resources. You're probably, or mostly, the only designer on the team. You feel like you're alone, you're lonely, nobody really understands you, and sometimes you go home and you feel like you're about to lose your mind. Well, I'm very familiar with all of that. And before I start, I want to share a story. I started working for Amazon in 2016. And 2016 was a very different time. That was 10 years ago, right? And I didn't work for Amazon, I worked for AWS. So Amazon is like this cool e-commerce site where they care about the customer, they do a lot of A/B testing, and they're like, there's a lot of designers with a cool vibe. And then you have AWS. That started in 2006. And they basically didn't know what a design is. So I was hired as designer number 2 in Berlin. And in the entire AWS organization, we had not more than 100 designers. So you can imagine the situation that we were in. My first week, absolute disaster. I think I went home and I was like crying, like, what the hell am I doing? And imagine this picture. You're sitting in a room with the people who technically invented the internet. You're sitting there, youngest in the room, the least technical person. You have no idea what they're talking about. They're throwing acronyms above your head, and you're like, struggling to understand first what they want from you. Then you gather your courage and you're like, all right, I'm here for a reason. They hired me. I passed the interview. I can do this. Then I stood up and I'm like, wanted to ask a question. I was like, whoa. The answer that I got from the PMs and the engineers at that room was like, it's okay. You can do this. Can you do these mockups in only 5 minutes? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm supporting 200 teams. We're releasing 200 features. For me to locate your file and find it, it's going to take me more than 5 minutes, so I don't know what you want me to do. And then they started asking, I have a presentation tomorrow. Can you design it for me? I'm like, I'm not a graphic designer, and my skills as a graphic designer are horrible, so I would not hire myself as a graphic designer. Then more arguments started to come. We cannot afford to hire more designers. Can the PM do it? Or maybe the engineer? I'm like, great, they can do it. But AWS was in a mess because it was designed by engineers with no designers, right? And my favorite one, our users are very technical. They use mostly APIs. They don't care about the UI. I literally spent 7 years at Amazon trying to convince people that that is not true. At the end, they did, but that took a lot of effort. This was the ratio between design, PM, and engineers. And that is ridiculous. You have one designer for 8 PMs for 500 engineers. So, as you can see, not exactly the right environment. So this is how I felt most of the time for the first year. What am I doing? What have I done? I'm in the wrong place. I tried. I really tried to bring every argument. I brought arguments. We need to care about the customer. We need to bring trust. We need to bring designers early because we're unlocking revenue. We don't want to firefight. The NPS, the CSAT score, all that fell flat. Nothing moved the needle. When I was bringing NPS, and be careful if you're working in a B2B company and you want to bring CSAT score and NPS, because the answer will always be, so look at the other SaaS products. They also, what's the benchmark? Ours is good. It's good enough. Because the reality of the work that you're doing, there's a person who has a purchase power, signed a contract with your company, $1 million contract, and they don't care about the experience. And the end user, who's actually using your product day in, day night, that's the person who's struggling. So you're technically not talking the right language. My moment of epiphany was when I started looking at myself and my fellow designers. We realized that we worked in groups, we always went to lunch together, we shared war stories, and we thought that's how things should be. We're in a design community. And then what happened one day, we were in a management meeting, and one of the managers, he looked at us in the back and he said, I wish I could be so cool like those AC/DC kids that are sitting in the back. First of all, I got very offended, and then I thought, wait a minute, maybe we are the problem. Maybe the way we speak and the way we present ourselves, that's the problem. So, in Taylor Swift words, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me. That got me thinking, we need to change. As designers in the organization, we need to change and we need to shift. And everything you're going to hear from me today is my own experience working with big customers and enterprise customers and how I managed to secure investment. So, what did I do? I stopped talking about craft. I'm a designer. I stopped mentioning the word design at all. I don't talk about design. Design is important, but I don't talk about it. I started communicating with return of investment. For me, it's a resource, return of investment, it's a feature, it's a KPI. And I thought, I will give it a try. I will do this for 1 year and see if I was successful or not. I managed to hire 6 designers in year 1 in Amazon. And for you who know how these big corporations work, that was a success for me in year 1. So what did I do? So, first, stop, take your time, understand the process. You go into a new organization, a big organization, and we have this tendency to come and say, oh, this is so cool. There's this thing, I'm going to change it. There's this new process that I'm going to implement. I know what everyone else don't know. And my sincere advice, don't do that. You have a probation period for a reason. Stop. Stay back. Understand the process. Map the power in your organization. Who has the power to secure your funding? Who has the power to say yes or no? And mind you, your manager could be not the one who has the power. It could be somebody completely different. But taking that time really allows you to understand how funding works and what can you do to plug in. In Amazon, for example, funding worked a year before, so I had to prepare everything that I needed, all the resources, 2 years before. At Miro, it works very differently. At McKinsey, it works very differently. In your organization, how does funding work? Then, understand your strategy. Learn the strategy. What do you really care about as an organization? Efficiency? Revenue? Optimization? Growth? What do you really care about, right? Because once you understand what they care about, you can actually bring into your UX work to existing metrics and existing strategy. I see a lot of times designers coming in and they want to change something, or they believe in something so strongly. Like, for example, oh, I want to have a design system. Nothing is built by a design system. Or I want to automate these processes. That's the right thing to do. Like, I don't disagree. It is the right thing to do. However, if your organization is optimizing for revenue and optimizing for growth, it's okay that half of your internal processes or half of your system is literally put in duct tape, hoping that nothing would break. But that is a decision that the organization have made. We are optimizing for revenue. So your idea of doing a legacy uplift or rebuilding everything using a better experience, it's not that it's not a bad idea, it's just not the right time. And you fall into this pitfall because you did not learn your strategy or you did not understand the strategy of the company. Now, you've done your homework. You understood the strategy, you got the process, you're ready to go. Where do you start? Oh, not this one. Yeah, this one. So now you start building your case. And now you start being able to frame your investment in number. And that is a very powerful tool because instead of saying, I want to rebuild our legacy with a better experience, you can say, hey, we need to rebuild our experience using a design system because it will be more efficient for our developers. Then we could use less front-end developers because everything is a component. Or you can say, our onboarding is horrible. People are suffering from our onboarding, right? How do you frame it? You can say, well, we discovered that we're losing customers on our onboarding, or they take them 6 months to onboard. Since we are optimizing for revenue this year, then maybe we should optimize our onboarding and shorten it from 6 months to 1 month. And we need X designers for that. So this is what I meant by build your case, frame the investment in number. Something I really love doing, and I've been doing it for years now, I set the time for vision work. What does it mean? Now, every 6 months, we take 2 days as a design team. We go wild and we go crazy. We start thinking about what would be the experience if we are to change it right now? What do we really care about? And then for 2 days, we just mock up and just go crazy, like come up with crazy ideas, right? The purpose of this exercise is not to make you depressed at the end, but the purpose of the exercise is to allow you to set a vision in the future. What do you want to build? How do you want the experience to be? And once you set that, once you have the vision, then you can start breaking it down into smaller chunks, and then you can see where in the strategy this particular chunk would fall. Sometimes don't be afraid to wear the PM hat or the product manager hat. I think for those of you who were in the presentation before, there was a lot of talk of the designer's job changing. But also the PM's job is changing. There's nothing that can say, hey, the PM can prototype and can build and do research. But wait a minute, I can also do PM work. I can also prototype. I can also work with engineers, right? Break the boundaries. We kind of got taught to always follow the PM. The PM is setting the vision. The PM is doing the product work, and I'm waiting for the PRD or the document or whatever it is that you call it. I'm waiting for the PM to deliver it. Why? You want a seat at the table. Earn your seat at the table. There's work that needs to be done. Do it. And if you're working in a B2B, these are projects, high-impact projects that can easily be led by a designer. And I have designers who are leading these projects. Onboarding. Everything exists. Customers are going to help center. You're throwing them in the documentation that looks like a fantasy book. You go from one page to the other to the other. That's an easy recipe, right? Automate workflows. You have a lot of workflows that are broken. Let's automate them. Dashboards, uplifting legacy. These are all projects that can be led by a designer, and they all can come from a vision work. So you've done that. Find your allies. You get into a company, or you're in the company for so long. Find your allies, like who are the ones who share the same vision, who are the ones who think the same as you. Build your credibility. Start small. Build on success. A lot of times, some of the designers I work with, they want to stand back and they want to release something with a bam. That doesn't work anymore, not in this day of age. Maybe 10 years ago, could have gotten away with it. Not today. Start small, keep your eye on the prize, keep your North Star, do your vision work. Communicate the impact of design, socialize, but most importantly, communicate the risk of the projects if you don't hire. And I like to do the latter. I like to go and say, well, if we don't hire a designer for this project is going to fall. Do you want the project to fail? And I love asking this no question. I'm a big fan of Chris Voss. For those of you who don't know it, awesome person. He has a book called Never Split the Difference. And he was a negotiator in FBI. And there's something that I really like about what he said. Always ask questions that the answer is no. Because if somebody tells me, no, I don't want that project to fail, I'm like, great, then you agree with me, we need to hire, right? It's an argument. And I use this technique so many times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's like a tip that I use multiple times to my favor. When I talk about investment, I always offer levels of investment. So I say, one additional designer, you have impact on project X and Y. You hire 3 designers and a researcher, then you are able to have high impact on certain project. Great. If we hire a full team, then we have long-term efficiency, we'll be able to do vision work, we'll be able to fix all the backlog. If we don't hire, then project A, B, and C are going to be at risk. I'm simply not going to resource them. No designer there, there will be delays, right? And here why I do this, because oftentimes I ask for 5 and I get 3. If you ask for 1, you will get none, right? So this is like another trick that I have been using. But how I identify impact, like what does impact mean? I put every project that we have, I put it on this matrix. Identify the problem. For me, a problem means user pain or friction, right? But I also link it to revenue, how much revenue we're losing. I link it to the cost, the risk, the churn. So I link it to business terms for the business people to understand it. Then I think of the business impact. I think of my UX metrics, and then I translate them into KPIs. Revenue, cycle time, if people respect NPS in your company, go for it. And then I align it with an OKR. OKR, goal, strategy, whatever you call it in your organization. But it's really important to direct it to where the company is going. Then I put my solution, and then I specify the alternative. Alternative, if we don't build that, what's going to happen? Then the alternative of if we build a V1 or a simpler version of what we wanted to build. That's where I identify the risks. This is the risk. This is what you're planning to do. Do we agree? Do we all, as a group, take the risk and go design or go build this feature without a designer? If yes, well, good luck with the escalations at the end. Then I think about the ROI, like what is the return of investment? So this is how I think about it, and I phrase it, and I rephrase my design logic with a business logic. So the UX inconsistent. I have OCD, I hate when it's inconsistent, but I cannot say that. So what I say, inconsistency is adding 20% more development time. It's slowing adoption. We need to fix that. We need design headcount. Without headcount, the roadmap delay will cost us 2 million ARR. Users find this flow confusing. Confusion is causing us 45% drop-off. We need a design system. Fair, right? Reusable components cut delivery time by 30% and saves us money. So converting what I think is a design problem to a business problem, and that's how I'm able to catch the organization's attention to, hey, we need to staff that here. Another trick I do, I anticipate blockers very early. So compliance, security, legal, especially if you're building an AI for a big organization or B2B or enterprise, this is coming your way. So learn about that, read about that, and start building the relationships with the people who are in charge of this, because this will be your biggest blocker. Balancing advocacy with diplomacy. So I'm pushing for design, but I'm always keeping empathy for for business constraints. Budget, timeline, regulations, what's happening. Like I'm empathetic, but I'm still pushing gently and understanding how this Balance, or if you can call it the political game, how it works. I balance craft with strategy. I'm still a designer. I know how to design, but I'm also giving time for my team and for myself to set strategy, to set vision, to understand the business goal, to be able to communicate with the responsible people or the higher-ups. Then this is my trick for hiring. So altogether, I don't think any of us here, with all the designers here, I don't think I'm a perfect designer or any of us is a perfect designer. This unicorn doesn't exist, or maybe I have not found this person yet. But as a team, we can collectively be perfect. And I found this trick quite useful for me to convince leadership on what skills exactly do I need and where do I need to hire the designers. So I look at the designers in a matrix. The first thing is the soft skills that I need from them, and then technical skills. And then I put the existing designers, designer 1, designer 2, designer 3, and I rate these skills. So for example here, I have my 3 designers are very strong in, let's say, system thinking. They're great. So when I'm hiring, I don't need to hire somebody who's a system thinker. However, let's say, for example, my 3 designers are not really good at vision work. They're not really good at doing forward-thinking work. So maybe I need a designer who is going to be just doing that. That's their bread and butter, and that's the thing that they will do, right? So that helps me communicate the skills that I want and where exactly and I'm seeing the gap. Another thing I do the same matrix for every project. So I say, well, we have a dashboard. This dashboard would require somebody with system thinking or somebody with strong visuals, and I don't have that on the team. So I need the budget to hire this person, because if I don't hire this person, this project is not going to go. The way functioning team works is by having what we call EPD, engineer, product, and design, working together as a unit. So the entire responsibility of the product or the success or the failure of the product is sitting on the shoulders of a team, not one person. That means the meetings are different. So that means when you're meeting a team is meeting a team, and we call it in Miro 3x3 meetings. So the entire team, PM, engineer, designer, is meeting with the opposite team, engineer, PM, designer. And think of it from a lower level all the way to a higher level. And this is how it functions. And doing that, it means you, A, can think of certain partners, like this person doesn't have a partner, what do we do? The other thing, like having such a structure or pushing for such a structure will show others how important is having a designer in the room, because the other team is having a designer, you're not having a designer, why am I being left out? So, this also helps us to have one communication channel, right? So we're used to design reviews, and we're used to design crits, and we kind of gather as designers, we give feedback. Most of the time, this feedback falls on deaf ears and goes into the backlog, and this is how your design depth is growing and growing and growing. So we don't do that anymore. We have one communication, and that communication goes straight into the company as a team. I, as a designer, I'm responsible for the experience, and I'm saying the experience, not only the UI. I'm responsible for the experience end-to-end. My PM is responsible for the product and the business, and the engineer is responsible for the tech work, right? So this is how we do our reviews. We have one review, and then we split that review into 3 parts. Which means any feedback you're getting, this feedback is being assessed next to technical feedback. So you're not sitting in an echo chamber saying, design is not great, the experience is not great, while your engineering partner is saying, well, I don't care if it's great or not, I have a security issue, and if I don't fix that security issue, we're all going to lose our job because legal is going to be at our back. This helps us to identify the RACI. For those of you who are not aware of the RACI matrix is kind of like give you an idea of who's responsible and who's doing what, like what's the ownership, which means responsible people, accountable, consulted, informed. And in our world, it looks like this. So you have the projects, and you have the matrix, and these red little dots that you're seeing is actually people. is the team. So the team, engineer, PM, designer, are responsible for the work. And I do understand like sometimes it's really hard to start from this, but the way you can make it start, again, start small. Build it in your own little tiny bubble. Make it grow. Identify the impact. Build on it. All right, so advocating for design resources really requires a shift in the mindset. Not the organization first, your mindset. You need to think of what is your job as a designer now. Things are shifting, things are changing. Either be part of the change and shift yourself, or you will not. And that's not a nice place to be. So, this is a very easy framework that could be used when you're communicating. Problem, business impact, the design role. It's quite simple. So you identify the problem. Enterprise admins face high friction in setting permissions. Business impact, this increases time to value, slows adoption, drives churn. The designer role is, we need to redesign the permission workflow, we cut the friction, support, unlock faster deployment. Map your design to OKR or KPIs. If the OKR is increase adoption, then your design framing is our localized onboarding template reduce customer setup time by 40%, directly driving adoption in Japan, our new market. Speak the language of trade-offs. So identify always, don't give one option, give multiple options. Give them the ability to choose which way they want to go for. For example, path A, we could launch faster. The UX is horrible. We could still launch. However, more churn, higher support cost, or we can invest. Might slow us by 2 weeks, but it will save us X amount of time and X amount of money. Adopt the mental model. So use the management-owned language, RACI, 3x3, EPD rituals, compliance and governance, position design as a trust builder, especially if you're working in B2B, especially if you're working in AI. These things are coming, and they're coming from January 1st with a new Compliance Act in Europe and the California Act that is going to come in play in January. So this is your opportunity to shine as an enterprise designer. Use it and abuse it. And this is me. Thank you so much. I was on time.
Yes.
Yay.
And now it's the time for questions. So feel free to ask it. Yes, there is one person. Microphone is coming. Where? Can you just raise your hand once again? Thank you.
Thank you for the lecture. And I have a question. For example, you said use business logic, not design logic. But where can I get this data? Like, for example, 5 million euro loss. Like, where would I get that data? Because I know other designers, they also have those questions.
Do you work in a B2B or in any company that have customer support or account managers?
I think so, yeah.
Then you have a gold mine that you have not tapped yet. A lot of this data, I personally find it with the go-to-market organization, so account managers, sales, support, marketing, they all have this data. It's just we don't look for it because we don't think of, they're not part of the product, so we don't think of them as like, oh, it's an opportunity. But for me, this always has been a very good way to really understand how much we're losing. Sales have to identify, which is what they call closed lost and closed win, like how many closes they had and they won the customer, and how many closes they had and they lost the customer. That's a very, very interesting gold mine of data, because then you know why the customers are not signing the contract, and that's how you kind of get your metrics. So this data exists, and maybe not in product, but outside it exists.